Al, what is it about free will that elicits such intense emotion among philosophers, psychologists, neuroscientists? General public feels free will, it's obvious.
When I hear a question like that, what's exciting about free will, I wonder, really, what does the speaker mean by free will? It turns out there are at least three different meanings out there, both in philosophy and among the general public. And there's a kind of gas station model that I like and like to use to explain it. So at gas stations, you can get regular gas, you can get mid-grade gas, you can get premium. And similarly with free will. So on one conception of free will, the conception according to which it's like regular gas, sufficient for having free will would just be a matter of being sane and rational, uncompelled, uncoerced, and able to make well-informed decisions on the basis of reasons. Sometimes that's called reasons responsiveness. In the absence of compulsion. No addictions, nobody's holding a gun to your head. And at the mid-grade, it's claimed that you need more than that something needs to be added to the mix. And what needs to be added is a certain kind of openness at the moment of decision. The openness could be explained this way. So if you have it, then although you made a certain decision at a certain time, for example, you decided to go to Cool Beans for dinner tonight, there's another possible scenario where everything is the same right up until that moment. The laws of nature are the same, the history of the universe is the same, and even though everything's been the same right up until then, you make a different decision at that moment. Say you go to Chez Pierre. Now, that wasn't in the first picture. The first picture didn't require this kind of openness, but it is required at the mid-grade level. And then at the third level, it's claimed, this is the analog of premium gas now, it's claimed, no, that's not enough either. It's not enough that you have sanity, rationality, absence of compulsion and coercion.
And
openness, that's right. You need to have a non-physical soul or a non-physical mind, and it needs to be at work.
Now, a key element here is in your first level, at the regular gas level, that even though I think I'm making this decision and I have total independent authority to make a free will decision, and nobody is holding a gun to my head, I have no addiction, I'm mentally sane and all of that. But still, in that first model, because the laws of the universe are set, and there were some initial conditions that the entire flow of the universe could only be one way, and I was going to make that decision, even if I have this illusion that I can make a different decision. That's the first level.
That's the first level. Now, some people, and these people are called compatibilists, will say, and I'll define compatibilism in a minute.
Well, firstly, this is very good, because I've heard all these terms, compatible, incompatible, libertarian, determinate, all these words come to populate the concept of free will. Right. So you've got to clarify each one of these big terms so we can understand it.
Okay, good. Now, compatibilism, incompatibilism, and libertarianism are all defined in terms of determinism. So let's start with determinism. Last time I checked, there were at least 96 different definitions of determinism in the literature. Philosophers tend to use, especially the philosophers who write about free will, a very precise and technical one, but I can make it simple and understandable. So the basic idea of determinism, as we understand it in the free will literature, is this: that a complete statement of the laws of nature and a complete description of the universe at any point in time entails all other truths about the universe. So you could picture it in terms of an infinite intelligence, let's say. Let's imagine an infinite intelligence that knew all the laws of nature and knew everything about how the universe is at a particular moment in time. That being could deduce with absolute certainty all other truths about that universe, including everything that will ever happen.
So the truths are not just at that moment, the truths are back and forward in time, forward however long you want to go.
They entail forward truths, and they entail backward truths. But really,
And that was the truth of every decision that I think I will make. But in fact, those truths have been pre-known or could have been pre-known by an infinite intelligence.
that's true. One way to picture it is, so the infinite intelligence takes a snapshot of the universe at a moment, but it's the whole universe, and he knows all the laws, or she knows all the laws, and then just does the deductions and deduces everything that you will ever decide, without a chance of being wrong.
So that's determinism.
That's determinism.
Now, how do we define the free will concepts, compatibilism, incompatibilism, libertarianism, in relationship to determinism?
Well, compatibilism is the view that determinism is consistent or compatible with free will. So that even if determinism is true, the compatibilist says people might be able to act freely, and they might act freely.
So they're saying that even though the decision I make to move this book to this space or to this space, even though I think I'm making that freely, under a compatibilist view, that has been determined by the laws of the universe, and it was known for sure which way I'm going to do it, even though I think I'm doing it free. So what you're doing is degrading the concept of free will.
Well, compatibilists wouldn't count it as degrading. They would say that's what free will is. All right, let's move on to the other terms. So that's compatibilism. Incompatibilism is just the denial or negation of compatibilism. So it's the view that determinism, as I defined it, is not compatible with free will.
Which means that that if it's true that that the world is deterministic, then there is no free will.
That's what they claim.
That's the incompatibilist view.
That's right. That's the incompatibilist view. And then libertarians are incompatibilists who believe that people sometimes act freely. So libertarianism, which has nothing to do with political libertarianism, is the combination of two theses. Incompatibilism and people sometimes act freely.
Okay.
Now, there's actually no name specifically for compatibilist believers in free will, because strictly speaking, you could think that compatibilism is true and think that nobody ever acts freely, right? Also, compatibilists don't require determinism for free action. They just say, even if determinism is true, you could act freely. So there's no term for compatibilist that corresponds to libertarian, but we could just call them compatibilist believers in free will.
Okay. But it seems unquestionable that the definition of free will is a different one by definition between compatibilists and libertarianism. So the compatibilists have a weaker definition of free will. You can't get out of that.
You can say that. Some compatibilists would disagree, and here's the point of disagreement. So I know what you're thinking. What you're thinking is this. Well, look, these libertarians are saying that free will requires the ability to do otherwise, at particular moments, and compatibilists are denying that, because compatibilists are saying, even if determinism is true, you can act freely. But traditional compatibilists have a view about the ability to do otherwise that makes it, that ability, compatible with determinism. Now here's just a really simple version of this view. It's too simple to work, but it'll give you an idea of how it might go. Then it gets more complicated. So what is it to be able to do otherwise? Well, it's just this, that if I had had better reasons to do otherwise, I would have done it. There's nothing more to it than that. Okay, that's a simple version. What about the ability to do otherwise matters for free will? Well, maybe just that it shows that you can assess reasons in a reasonable way and make decisions on their basis. Maybe you don't need this kind of deep openness where in another scenario where everything's been the same right up until then, including all the laws, you do otherwise than you did. Maybe all you need is a certain kind of mastery of reasons, receptivity to them, sensitivity, and just not being pushed around. Now that's a traditional compatibilist idea. Here's another simple version, too simple to work. Well, I could have done otherwise because if I had chosen to do otherwise, I would have done otherwise. But of course, once you say that, then somebody's going to ask you, yeah, but could you have chosen to do otherwise?
The answer is no.
Okay, so now we've talked a bit about compatibilism, and let's link it back to the three different conceptions of free will. So the regular free will is a compatibilist kind of free will.
That means the whole history of the universe could have determined what I'm going to do, but that is your definition of free will, even though I have no alternative.
No alternative in a certain sense.
Okay.
Traditional compatibilists say, well, you did have an alternative. For example, this. If you had chosen differently, you would have acted differently.
But the universe would have had to have been different.
True. And there's a complication. There's a compatibilist patch to fix it. Some other time, perhaps, we can talk about that. But that first conception is compatibilist. Mid-grade free will is libertarian free will.
I really can make an open decision at any point.
Really in the sense that the entire history of the universe and all the laws could be exactly what they were when you made a decision, and given that, you could decide otherwise, yeah. So that's a kind of deep ability to do otherwise, or deep openness. The third kind, the premium kind of free will, is libertarian too. That is, it's incompatibilist, it's claiming that people act freely, but it adds to libertarianism an extra factor, a required soul, a non-physical soul, or a non-physical mind.
Because the second level, this openness, is purely within the physical universe.
It is.
The third level, the premium kind, you have to go outside the physical universe to something non-physical to get the kind of openness that they require.
Exactly, yeah. And they think that if once you're outside the physical universe, you're not
free to
bound by laws of nature.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, heck yes.
Want to watch full broadcast episodes of Closer to Truth before they premiere on YouTube? Visit closertotruth.com to register for a free member account. You'll also get access to exclusive live interviews, custom video playlists, and discussion boards. Become a Closer to Truth member today.